Hello, welcome to an AAC private practice day in the life. I am going to share a little bit about what a day in the life of my AAC private practice looks like. So, a little bit about me. My name is Megan Stewart. I'm a licensed speech language pathologist and have been for over 20 years. I have worked in a variety of different settings, including my own private practice that I've been running for about 2 years now. My work focuses exclusively on augmentative and alternative communication. I do have some students that are Gestalt language processors as well, some that do use AAC and some that do not. I support children and adults with complex communication needs and also partnering with the families, educators, and everyone on their care teams to make sure that individualized AAC systems are really working correctly and using their means to help empower clients to communicate in a meaningful environment. So, quick overview of a day in the life. What I wear and what I need. I wear very comfortable but professional attire that's suited for foreplay and active therapy. For me, that usually looks like a pair of scrub pants or a pair of nice joggers and a graphic t-shirt. I usually have a speech therapy t-shirt on or an AAC t-shirt on or something that has some fun characters on it to kind of get the kids engaged. And the scrub pants I found have been wonderful because we're getting up and down off the floor a lot because I'm working primarily with pediatrics or very active young adults. So having that flexibility is nice. Always wearing tennis shoes because we're always on the go. I also always have to have an iPad with me. My iPad is full of different AAC apps that you can get as a licensed speech language pathologist as an evaluator license for free. So I have those on hand. I also might have a dedicated AAC device that I might have for a trial that we're using with a client. I sometimes bring in some therapy materials, but sometimes, most often actually, I am using what's in the home because I'm a mobile therapist and I travel to clients' homes. I want to be able to use what's in their home so that when I leave, I'm not taking all of those communication opportunities that we've just worked on and taking them with me. I want to use what they've got so that they know how to communicate about it even when I'm not there. I also do sometimes bring in some light tech paper-based communication boards if we're using that modality as well. What I use and who I see. So again, I talked about AAC apps. I listed Proloquo to Go and TouchChat. I have another slide coming up where I talk about all the different apps that I use, but there are so many out there. These are just the ones that I happen to use frequently with the clients that I currently have. Again, I mentioned light tech, communication boards and those accessories. So if they are needing eye gaze, we've got those mounts or switches or anything like that. My clients include children with varying communication needs, their families, and collaborative professionals. Now, I do say children. I do have some students on my caseload that are up to age 19, but I call everyone children. So, as far as planning sessions or following their lead, I do a little bit of both. A lot of following their lead, though. They're intentionally flexible and child-centered center sessions, excuse me. I don't follow that rigid script. I observe their interests and their energy based on each individual session, each individual day, and I use those cues to help guide us in meaningful communication opportunities. Again, it has to be something they're motivated to do. It has to be something they're interested in to get that communication and get that motivation going. So I work to balance therapy goals with spontaneous moments, bringing about their curiosity in a toy or an activity. It can be a really powerful teaching moment. So again, not wanting to bring in things and then take them away so they have nothing to communicate that they're familiar with when I leave. So I found that using this child-led approach is very neurodiversity affirming, and it really engages the family and the kids, and it helps to bring that trust aspect in, that motivation aspect in, and it gets us really genuine communication interactions. So sometimes a problem and a solution need to be looked at during your therapy sessions or within your private practice as a whole. So a problem could be that you have different clients that have a wide variety of communication needs, abilities, and learning profiles. And a one size fits all approach in AAC doesn't work, especially in private practice. So For that solution, we use feature matching to determine which AAC system, which access method, which grid size, or anything else is best for each client individually. You'll very rarely be able to find things that match exactly from client to client. And I also wanted to throw in here that sometimes you have to start with what they have and build from there. As a private practice owner, I have found that I am sometimes not the first SLP that the family has ever worked with. Or they might have been working with another therapist and then they've transitioned over to me, but they've got this existing AAC system that they've been working with, the child is familiar with, may not have been the exact same thing that I would have recommended had I been the initial therapist that came in. Excuse me. But I don't want to come in just bull in a china shop, coming in and saying that we have to change everything right away. I need to build rapport with the family. I need to work with what we've got and then see if there are ways to make suggestions. I need to be open to that learning as well for what they already have. So here's the slide I mentioned before. These are all the current AAC apps and setups that I am working with within my private practice. Again, every private practice is going to be different because you have different clients, right? So for example, I do have one student, or I have students that are using Light Tech AAC with direct selection. Direct selection is individually pointing and actually touching the device or the Light Tech. I have a couple students that are using ProloQuo to go with direct selection. I also have a child that's using ProloQuo, two different apps. ProloQuo is a newer app that is within the ProloQuo to go family, but they are totally different, but both are using direct selection. I have some clients that are using Touch Chat with direct selection, Lamp Words for Life with direct selection. I also have a client that is using the Go Talk Now app with direct selection. Sometimes we also do partner assisted scanning, where that is where I am listing off her options and then watching for body language, gestures, activation from her actually touching it after I say it, anything like that to show me that that's what she wants. I also have some students that are using TD Snap, both with direct selection, also have some that are using it with eye gaze. I have a couple clients that are just brand new to eye gaze, so we're using a Tobii Dynavox i13 with eye gaze, and we're using some apps like Look to Learn and Sensory Eye FX to build that interaction and learning how to use our eyes within that system, because that's a big learning curve in and of itself. I also have a student that is using the Tobii Dynavox i110 dedicated device, and she is using that with scanning. I did show some pictures. I wanted to show some pictures of what some of the different setups look like. So this is my iPad that I mentioned before that I have with me all the time, that is showing an example of a grid size within ProloQuo to go. This is an example of one of my clients and his device using Touch Chat. We had a little bit of a larger border between each of the items on the grid. On this one, this is a Light Tech communication board that has the core vocabulary and then some fringe vocabulary at the top. TD Snap here on the 80 grid. I have another client, I didn't put a picture in here, but I have other clients that are using different size grids all the way down to a 2x2, just based upon, again, that feature matching and really looking at what they need. Then I've also got this client that is using Lamp Words for Life. This is a screenshot of a ProloQuo. This is the Go Talk that I'm using with either direct selection or partner assisted scanning. Another version of Touch Chat, and this is the i13 with Tobii Dynavox and some Touch Chat with eye gaze, or not Touch Chat, TD Snap with eye gaze. So while the therapy is the best part, I will tell you, you do as an AAC therapist within private practice still need to take time with scheduling, billing, and paperwork. Unfortunately, that's something that just will never go away, no matter what setting you're working in. What mine looks like, again, all AAC practices, all private practices, everything is going to look different on an individual by need basis. So you need to figure out what is going to work best for you. But for me, some of my key administrative responsibilities include building a flexible schedule. What's really nice about being able to do it in private practice is I get to be able to balance what's going to work best for my life and for me, as well as my clients. And I get to choose how to build my schedule. So if it's a client that I want to take on, yes, I do need to look at their availability and times of day that might be best for them. But it all boils down to me. I get to make that decision. So that is one of the big perks of being in private practice. Um, Billing is a huge thing. Again, you're never going to get away from it because we always want to get paid for our work, right? So I did outsource to a biller immediately. I knew that billing myself doing insurance billing myself was not going to be something that I wanted to spend my time doing. So I did outsource that very quickly at the very beginning of my private practice. However, I also took the time to understand the basics of it so that if I had to jump in, I could, or if I needed to confirm that a claim was paid correctly or needed to submit a resubmission or anything like that. I won't go too deep into that, but I needed to know some basics. I know basics, very basic. And otherwise, I have outsourced to a biller. So, again, totally up to you. I know plenty of people that run a private practice and do all of their own billing as well. Managing paperwork, I use all digital tools. I will show you some examples. I use Google Suite. You can get the HIPAA compliant Google Suite. So I have Google Docs, Google Forms, Google Sheets, Calendar, all the things, Google. And staying organized helps reduce that administrative burden so I can really focus on caring for my clients. So, um, let's see. We did hire a biller. I said we can create and adjusting our schedules independently. Again, I talked about the Google Suite. I will show you some screenshots here on the next couple slides, but I do track reevaluation dates and billing all within a Google Sheet. And it is HIPAA compliant. And I also have HIPAA compliant Google Meet so that if I would like to have a teletherapy session, I can do that and know that it is safe. So here are some of the examples that I mentioned I would show to you. This is a screenshot of my schedule on just a random week. So you will see different colors here. These are some tasks that I have just thrown in there for myself. Anything that is a block here is a client or was a client for that day. When personally for me, some color coding that works is if they are going to be seen, it's blue. Once I've seen them and completed their note for that session, I turn it green. If they've canceled, I turn it red and then I change the title of the session. Again, total personal preference for you on that one. So you can see I had a very busy week, but it's also nice that I chose that week to be that busy. I didn't have to do that. I chose it. So again, keeping that in mind that you can have as many or as few of clients as you would like on any given day. This over here is just a screenshot of a template for a note that I do after each session. It has my logo and it has all the pertinent information that I would need to have on there. And then I write in this blank space my SOAP note for that session. And then once I have completed this in Google Docs, it does have a timestamp on it at the end. I put that in, and then I also save it as a PDF. So it is locked in that client's file in Google Drive. Some other examples, this is my client spreadsheet. Again, I've redacted any personal information, but it kind of helps me keep track of the authorizations specifically over here. So I know that if I need to get a reauth going, I know how much time I've got. I could color code this if I needed to, but this really helps keep me in check. So you can see that I bill a lot of different insurances. Well, my biller does. Primarily Medicaids, some commercial insurances, and then also the Step Up Scholarship here in Florida. If families choose to pull their children out of school and they have an IEP, then they are eligible for the Step Up Scholarship up to a certain amount. So I do have some families that use that scholarship funds to pay for sessions with me. So all of that is listed there as well. Some other administrative examples. This is a screenshot, obviously blank, of how I keep track of my billing. So you can see here I list on any given day the client that I saw, so their name goes there, their diagnosis goes there, date of birth, their address, the date that I saw them, any notes that I might need to have for myself or my biller, the treatment type, whether that's an evaluation, whether that's a consultation, a therapy session, anything like that is delineated there. Number of units, again, goes into billing. That's that knowing basics enough. So your biller knows how many units to bill for. Amount billed, so you put your total there. Amount due to contractor, so if I have some OTs that contract with my agency, so that will be able to be filled in there if I need it. And then amount paid is once we get payment for that, whether it's through the family, through step up, through insurance, that amount goes here. Any remainder owed, and then if it was cleared by myself or my biller. So all of that goes in, and then my biller gets a copy of that so he can know who I saw and who to bill out for that day. And then I color code once it comes in and everything has been paid, it is green. If it's partially paid, it turns yellow, etc. Again, a personal preference, however you want to set it up. I'm just giving you some examples of what mine looks like. So again, breaking down documentation and private practice, some of the things that I have to do documentation wise. Every day I have daily notes. Well, every day that I see clients, I have daily notes. I do, if I have a new client, do need to do still an initial evaluation and create a plan of care and then send that off to the primary care physician to get a signature. Once I get a signature on it, then I send it to insurance for authorization. If they are private pay, I can do an initial evaluation, typically still do. Whether I write it up formally is up to an understanding between the family and I. If they would like that, I do it, but it's not necessary. And then if it's private pay, I also don't need to submit it to their physician or to insurance because they are private pay. But if you need to submit to insurance, these are the steps. Insurance is a reevaluation report every 6 months, or more frequently if insurance wants it. Typically it's every 6 months. And then again, you reevaluate, then you send it to the primary care physician to get a signature, you send it back to insurance, they continue to give you authorization. So that's why it's important to keep on top of those authorization dates. I do write AAC funding reports for devices. The good news is that so many of the actual device manufacturers now have templates online for you that make it really easy to complete those funding reports and get them out. And then the representatives for the device companies are incredibly helpful, and I encourage you to reach out to them as well. I've also written reports for AAC reevaluations for device renewals. So when a client is up for a new device after 5 to 7 years, then they are able to get a new device. And then I'm able to write a report showing, yes, they still do need this device. It's still medically necessary. I've also recently been able to write a few addendums for change of access, new accessories, so like new switches, new mode of access for clients. You sometimes will need to write an addendum for that to get insurance to pay for it. Collaborating with others is a huge part of my private practice. I am independent by myself, but I am not working in a silo. Meaning that almost all of my clients are also working with other therapists or other educators or other people in some way, shape, or form. And so collaboration is so important. I am still collaborating with teachers, therapists, specialists, so OTs, PTs, BCBAs, music therapists, art therapists, anybody and everybody that I can collaborate with to help facilitate that communication aspect and make sure that we are all striving towards the same goal for this client. I'm continually using text messaging or email to update families. I personally share my contact information with families. You can also get Google Voice numbers. There's lots of different things you can get for different lines if you don't want to give out your personal information. That's, again, a personal preference. There's also lots of messaging apps for that, but you need to be in continuous conversation with your families. Sharing AAC resources and session summaries. I typically do session summaries at the end of the session. Families are usually involved in my session, so there's not usually a whole lot that we have to review at the end because they've been there the whole time. But if they are not there, say I'm seeing their child at a ABA center or at a daycare, I will send them a voice message at the end of every session, letting them know how their child did, what we worked on, and all of that, so they can ask any questions in return. I'm always sharing resources with families as far as what they ask for, or if something comes up during the session and I happen to have a resource for it, I will share that with them as well. And then building trust and transparency through communication is just the biggest key, regardless of who you're communicating with. Just making sure you have open, honest conversations about how their child is doing, what you think might be helpful. Listening is also super important because you need to listen to what their concerns are so you can help facilitate conversations around that and support them through those concerns. Finally, just an overview, a little private practice workflow for mornings and sessions. So in the mornings, I'll review my daily schedule, make sure I know where I'm going for the day. I'll gather any materials that I might need. Again, don't take very much with me other than my iPad, but I'll gather anything that I might need to be taking with me. When I get to a session, I quickly do a family check-in. I check in with them, see how their week has been since I haven't been there, or the couple days, because I do have some clients that I see multiple times a week, and discuss any changes, concerns, successes, kind of just build that rapport that way. And then we have our session, which is very client-led, very flexible. We're never usually doing the same thing twice in a session. We're using their AAC apps and tools if appropriate, and I'm following their interests and I'm following their cues, and we have a ton of fun. In the evening or the afternoon, after my sessions are completed, I complete session notes. I submit billing or send it off to my biller to complete, follow up on any insurance claims, or respond to messages as needed. Documentation, again, like I've mentioned, session notes, update any reports that I might be working on, track my billing, and submit insurance claims. Those are the big things that I like to make sure I do every single day to stay on top of it. Also, as I'm able, I like to, well, not as I'm able, every day I confirm and plan sessions for the next day. So I send a text message um, confirming my next day's sessions just to make sure that families remember we have a session, things come up, it happens. So I send confirmation messages for the next day. And then when I'm able to, I do love to engage in personal and professional development surrounding AAC, share resources, gather resources for my own knowledge, and just keep up to date because things are always changing. So I know that was a very quick overview, but I wanted to share that information with you. This is my contact information, so you can feel free to reach out to me at any time on any of these different platforms. Also, that's my email address, my website, and then on social media, if you ever want to connect that way, I'm at Sensible Literacy on all socials. Thank you so much.